Norquist, who's an Obamacare opponent. Kevin, you're the guest host, so why don't you ask the first question?
So kind, so kind. Ruth, isn't this an apology that is an apology of the last resort? The president, at first what he did was he went out and he denied that there was even a problem. Then he goes out and what does he do? He attacks his critics. And then only when there's no other options left does he apologize to the American people.
So I think I'm going to surprise you and maybe Grover and maybe Stephanie and say, yes, I think you're right. I am a supporter of Obamacare, but I do not think that this has been well handled, and I think that is putting it very mildly. The president said something that he knew or should have known and probably knew wasn't exactly accurate. And that Stephanie said, everybody repeated it. We're culpable in the press because we let him get away with it. If you look at the HHS was projecting back a few months after the law was passed that a lot of people in this individual market, you're totally right, Stephanie, it's a small piece of the market, were going to lose their coverage. We're not going to get grandfathered, so they were going to have to buy new plans in the marketplaces. So the president knew that. His first reaction was, I didn't say it, or I said it with this caveat and you all failed to hear it correctly. Then
that's one of the big problems
the critics,
here.
And now it's a sort of limited apology. He's not saying he misled us.
And we're seeing that outrage.
He's kind of sorry his law is working.
We're seeing that outrage from the American public, but are we really seeing enough outrage from the media? I mean, essentially, this.
Have you been listening to White House briefings?
This was a bill that was sold on a false premise to the American public.
Okay, we are talking about a very small. For most Americans, they are keeping their current health care plan, and this is a better deal for the American people who have to change plans. They're getting a better deal. There's no deception here. The bottom line is that it was a talking point that got out of control. There was a rule and regulation that we passed right after Obamacare was signed into law that was heavily covered by the media and debated by Republicans. There was a heavy conversation. There was legislation to try to overturn it, that if you had a health care plan before March 23rd, 2010, you could keep it. If you had a health care plan after that, it would be subject to change. But those are details. I totally understand that this has gotten out of control and gotten away from the president. But Grover, the president's apology is more than we've gotten in the past from some presidents. Some presidents don't know how to apologize. I want you to watch this.
Your words. No one was more sickened or angry than I was when we didn't find weapons of mass destruction. You still have a sickening feeling.
I do.
When you think about it.
I do.
Was there ever any consideration of apologizing to the American people?
I mean, apologizing would basically say the decision was a wrong decision, and I don't believe it was a wrong decision.
So let's give credit where credit is due. The president apologized. That's something that other presidents weren't able to do, and he's committed to fixing it. Even though you oppose the law and are a critic of the president, can you at least give him credit for that?
Well, I'm not sure I heard an apology. He lied to the American people again and again. And again, the whole way this works was to force people. He says these plans weren't any good, they were subpar. That's not his job. The American people decide whether they...
That's the law that was passed.
Okay, but the point was the American people should be able to decide what kind of car they want, what kind of insurance they want, what services they want to buy. He doesn't get to come in. The whole reason we have the problem... One second. The reason we have the problem... Yes, it's a law which he passed, which was a lie from what he said.
It was upheld by the Supreme Court.
Okay, two things. It was passed all with Democrat votes, and let's remember here, who cares whether the president lied in this case? He's fibbed on a whole bunch of things. He got elected saying he wouldn't raise taxes on anyone in any way who earned less than $250,000 a year. It took him 16 days to break that promise, and he did it 8 times in Obamacare. And he's not apologized for that lie, which he ran millions of dollars worth of ads about. So he's not in the business of telling the truth when he needs to. Second, he hasn't agreed to fix this. The Republicans have put forward legislation to fix it. He says, no, I'll change it the way I want to, not the way the American people want it.
Let's talk about the legislation that's on the table to fix it. It actually doesn't fix the problem. It goes beyond the problem. It basically allows anybody to buy a plan that is a raw deal. Plans that won't be there when you get sick.
That they want. That's the difference between Democrats and Republicans. You choose and you do what you want. Other people want to run their lives for them.
But I think the analogy that you make to you get to buy any car you want is exactly right, because that's not precisely true. The government tells us you may disagree with it, but the government says cars need to meet certain fuel mileage standards. They need to meet certain safety standards. They have to have airbags in them. They have to have seatbelts. As with those, we don't want to get into a discussion about that. But it's an analogy.
Yes, we do, because 2,000 people were killed because of that. The government's own statistics.
As with other safety standards and other standards for accurate reporting, consumer protection, minimum coverage. So Stephanie's exactly right. So these insurance plans are real insurance plans that provide people with a minimum set of benefits that are there when they set by the state, set by Congress.
Set by the government.
My father was a mechanic, right? And when a car's transmission was broken, we didn't.
I know I should have brought up a car thing.
We didn't pour a quart of oil into the engine to see if it would work. We knew that it was fundamentally broken. Obamacare is fundamentally broken. Don't you think it is time? Don't you think it is time?
What makes it fundamentally broken?
It is not working right now.
Well,
don't you think it's time right now that we essentially go scrap the whole law, start over, and start reform the right way?
No. Absolutely not.
The apology doesn't work.
You want to pour a quart of oil?
Well, I'm not going to do I leave the mechanical stuff to others in my family.
I'll use another analogy.
But here, I was just picking up on Grover's. Here's the thing: is the website fundamentally broken? Yes. Is the rollout a debacle? Yes.
Part of it.
Has the administration failed to anticipate, as they absolutely should have, the large number of people who are finding that their grandfathering is not very effective, is not included? Yes. But where is the fundamental failure there? Many people will get insurance that is better insurance that costs them less with subsidies than they would have had absent Obamacare.
And it's not being implemented.
Yeah, but you haven't explained how it's broken.
I'll let you jump in.
Okay, two things. You can judge it by reality, by whether it's what the American people would choose to do on their own if they weren't pushed around and told what to do. Or you can do it by the president's own words. The president said he wouldn't raise anyone's taxes unless they made at least $250,000 a year. There are 8 taxes that directly hit the middle class, including the one that wasn't a tax when he put it in.
Grover, don't you want to talk about health care and not taxes?
Well, health care is a massive tax increase. Also, he promised it would drop people's premiums in real dollars. They're going up in many cases. And
in some cases, they're going up.
Yes, they were supposed to go down for everybody.
In many cases, they're going down.
They steal money from some people and subsidize
and most of them are getting a subsidy. So, and Grover, I do want to remind you that this was a law passed by Congress.
By Democrats. Not a single one Republican in Louisiana voted for it.
Unfortunately, Republicans politically chose not to support this, even though it was based largely on Republican ideas. It was upheld by the Supreme Court.
Romney did this in Massachusetts.
We had a presidential campaign.
It was held together by the Supreme Court because it was a tax.
Every single Republican voted against it, and they all support it now.
So there is a lot of daylight on what is in this law. There is nothing, secret going on here. The American people did choose this. Millions of people voted for it.
3,000 pages. They promised they'd put it up for everybody to look at before it was voted on.
We're going to go to break, and we'll continue this after the break. Kevin, over here, thinks the president should be spending more time